Hey everyone, on today's video we'll have a look on the YouTube channel called GDF and debunk his latest video called Why Israel Deliberately Targets Civilians. Enjoy and don't forget to sub and like.
Israel typically goes to great lengths to downplay their targeting of civilians.
Sorry for pausing so early, this would happen a lot during the video as it claims a lot of false stuff. The reality is quite straightforward. Israel simply doesn't target civilians. Numerous videos like the one playing in the background depict Israeli aircraft refraining from bombing Hamas's forward operating bases due to the presence of civilians nearby. The evidence speaks volumes. As a matter of fact, Israel has no narrative of targeting civilians, quite the opposite actually.
The usual pattern is, the Israeli Defense Ministry will claim that they're firing with precision and avoiding civilian casualties at all costs.
He debunks himself right now, showcasing in his own video footage from the Israeli Air Force calling off a striking mission because of civilians in the area. It's crazy how many times he contradicts himself in this video.
And further, that any civilian casualties documented are a result of Hamas human sacrifice via human shields.
Actually, here are a few ways that the IDF minimizes the civilians' deaths in Gaza. Calls and text messages. This is a known method of the IDF calling or messaging Palestinian residents to get them to leave their houses before the bombing. Leaflets. This is a less known method of the IDF. The leaflets is dropped by planes warning civilians to leave the area before either ground invasion or large-scale bombing of targets. Roof knocking. An airplane targets a building with a loud but non-lethal bomb that warns civilians that they're in the vicinity of what to be the next target.
However, following the devastating surprise attack on Israel last Saturday, the Israeli establishment has taken a noticeable and seismic turn.
Yeah, obviously Israel would. Hamas murdered 1,300 civilians. Did the USA not do anything in 9/11? What do you expect Israel to do? To just hope something good will happen?
On Tuesday, the IDF spokesman, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, stated flatly, "The emphasis is on damage and not on accuracy."
Hamas has the same emphasis. They're just crying Israel is now playing by the same rules as them.
Benjamin Netanyahu has called on Gazan residents to leave, and that he will operate forcefully everywhere.
Once again, GDF only takes one sentence without any context to it. You can clearly see the sentence before it, telling Gazan residents Israel will target terrorist hideouts.
And due to Israel enforcing a total blockade, on top of the already existing land, air, and sea blockade that has existed for 16 grueling years.
Blockade? Israel lets every month 1,700 Gazan residents come work inside Israel where they get paid over 3 times as much as they would in Gaza. They get fuel, water, electricity, money and supplies. I want to talk about injustice. While Israeli Jews can't enter Palestinian Authority territory under any circumstances, Palestinians can visit Israel with the proper documentation. In fact, more than 193,000 authorizations for healthcare within Israeli hospitals have been issued.
Gazans are unable to flee to Israel.
This is by far his worst argument. Why would Gazan residents would be allowed inside Israel? They're not Israeli citizens or allies. They're quite the opposite actually. Thousands of Gazan residents murdered women and children and raped hundreds inside Israel at the 7th of October attack. Did the US let Iraqis, Afghans or Vietnamese inside their border? Did Russia let Ukraine inside theirs? This is war and for no logical reason Israel should let Gazan residents inside Israel right now.
So they sought to go to Egypt. But on Tuesday afternoon, the Israeli Air Force repeatedly bombed their only way out at Rafah crossing.
Egypt didn't let Gazan residents inside Egypt. This has nothing to do with the Rafah crossing. Israel bombed the convoy of trucks coming to supply Gaza after Israel Prime Minister warned Egypt not to. The Egyptian Prime Minister himself said he doesn't want to let Gazan residents inside the Sinai Peninsula. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said Thursday that the Palestinian people in Gaza Strip must stay and, quote, remain on their land, end quote.
High-level Egyptian security sources said on Tuesday that the country refuses to allow Gazans to settle in Sinai.
Jabalia refugee camp, according to the Associated Press, has been razed to the ground.
Jabalia camp is considered infested with terrorists. As said, quote, it also considered a major stronghold of the Hamas movement, end quote.
Of course, this happens every few years. The last major offensive of this magnitude was the Operation Protective Edge in 2014.
Protective Edge War was once again started by Hamas following the kidnapping and murdering of 3 Israeli teenagers, Eyal Ifrach, Gilad Shar, and Naftali Frankel, near the West Bank.
It is their usual one, the deliberate targeting of civilians.
Won't even start. I already explained 3 different times why this is entirely false.
The story begins in 2006, when Israel and Lebanon were fighting a brutal conflict, which killed thousands, and ultimately ended in Israel's embarrassing defeat.
Embarrassing defeat? Let's put things into perspective. A mere 100 IDF personnel lost their lives compared to a significant 250 Hezbollah fighters. When it comes to the so-called embarrassing defeat, should we go down the memory lane to the embarrassing defeat in the 6-Day War? Israel didn't lose nor win the 2006 Lebanon War. I seriously don't understand where you get your sources.
The time had come to find a different target, Tiny Gaza, poorly defended but proudly defiant, fitted the bill.
Roman G. Finkelstein, the one that is quoted, is an anti-Zionist American. Of course he would be anti-Israeli with his statements.
Its complete obliteration of the Beirut suburb of Dahieh.
Here was a stronghold of Hezbollah. Of course they would bomb it.
What happened in the Dahieh quarter of Beirut in 2006 will happen in every village from which Israel is fired on.
What's the problem with the statement? Every village Israel is fired from. Isn't it fair? God didn't say all the villages, but precisely the villages that fires on Israel.
To demolish thousands of houses of all the terrorists, so they will think twice before they launch rockets. They should be razed to the ground.
Again, what's the problem of destroying terrorist houses?
Amnesty International roundly condemned Israel's deliberate destruction and targeting of civilian buildings and property on a large scale, carried out without military necessity.
First of all, Amnesty International is an anti-Israeli group, so they have a bias. But they also said in the same article, quote, the Israeli military took measures to ensure that residents left their targeted buildings before the destruction, end quote.
A UN elementary school in Beit Hanun, which killed 13, a UN boys' school in Wafa, killing 12, and a UN girls' elementary school in Jabalia, killing 20.
Hamas fires rockets within schools by many reports and footages, and is specifically targeting heavily densified civilian areas.
Israel also destroyed or damaged 17 hospitals, 56 primary care facilities.
My favorite part, he blatantly says false facts. This is the actual amount of hospitals damaged and destroyed with the reasons behind each attack, with actual sources behind. Quote, some Hamas leaders hid in the basement of the Shifa hospital complex in Gaza City in the belief that they would be protected by human shields. Quote, an intelligence official claimed that senior members of Hamas sought refuge in the sub-levels floors, believing that Israel would not target them for the fear of such strike would lead heavy collateral damage. Quote, next to the hospital, militants set up posts that were used for firing mortars. Quote, Hamas made extensive use of the Al-Fawra Medical Center that they established a military camp and training base next to it. Further stating, rockets were launched in close proximity of the center. The ITIC report stated that Hamas used 10 Gazan hospitals for launching rockets at Israeli towns and for attacking IDF troops. Quote, Hamas set up a command center within a children's hospital, further stating, senior Hamas commanders also set up a command center in the Red Crescent Society Clinic in Khan Yunis. Also quoting, Israel set up an IDF field hospital for Gazans at the Erez crossing. Quote, UN High Commissioner accuses Hamas militants of violating international humanitarian law by locating rockets within schools and hospitals or even launching rockets from densely populated area. The IDF stated on July that more than 280 Hamas rockets malfunctioned and fell inside the Gaza Strip, hitting sites including the Al-Shifa hospital and the Al-Shat refugee camp, killing at least 11 and wounding dozens. Hamas denied any of its rockets hit the Gaza Strip, but Palestinian sources said numerous rockets launches ended up falling in the communities. There are a lot more occasions of this, but to not make the video any longer, I won't quote them all. You can have a look by yourself. Everything that is said in the video is linked with the sources in the description.
And 45 ambulances.
There is no evidence that Israel deliberately targeted hospitals and ambulances, as it's a case of hearsay. Further than that, Hamas militants said everyone knew that Hamas leaders were using hospitals for hiding. Washington Post described the Shifa hospital as a de facto headquarters for Hamas leaders, who can be seen in the hallways and the offices. In the video you can see the terrorist marked with a red circle entering an ambulance.
Gaza's only rehabilitation center, Al-Wafa Hospital, was also completely destroyed. But the sheer scale of the carnage would inevitably be exposed.
What GDF wouldn't show you is the reason the Al-Wafa Hospital was destroyed. He makes it sound like they killed every patient inside. However, you can see in the following video everything that they killed.
قول لي مش المستشفى الوفا يعني مأكد فيش حدا غاد من المرضى؟ طب بمستشفى الوفا احنا عم نحكي عن السجاير عشانكم متأكدين انه فيش غاد مرضى فيش اشي يعني بس ما في مرضى غاد كيف الحال؟
حكيت الحمد لله حكيت انا كمان مره بحكي لك
مدير المستشفى رد عليك مدير المستشفى؟
حكيت معاه حكى لي انه بالنسبه له ما في اي طواقم طبيه موجوده ولا مرضى هو سكر المستشفى وسكر كل ابواب المستشفى وما فيش مجال لاي حدا يدخل من المستشفى لانها مغلقه
بس انت حكيت يعني مع السيد قال لك فيش حدا منهم غاد
فيش حدا منهم غاد
لانه احنا بهمنا نوضح كمان يعني اذا بيكون في يعني عنا لقواتنا من غرض استهداف، بيكون في نشطاء اللي هن يعني لسه موجودين بقلب المستشفى.
طيب نفس الحال، هذا الكلام بوضح له اياه.
In another stark example of the insane firepower of the Israeli army, just one house in Israel was destroyed during the war.
Because Israel spends money and time to ensure the safety of its own residents. Unlike Hamas, its only job is to kill and murder as much Jews as possible. The only reason only one house was destroyed is because Israel has the Iron Dome. Hope you liked the video, and I urge anyone touching the topic to do some actual research before making false claims that can be disproven in one Google search. I also recommend going to travelingisrael.com YouTube channel, where it explains in great detail the conflict for your education.